This year I participated in the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam 2023. I've done this Game Jam 3 other times in the past. In 2019 I made a wave-based inventory management game for the theme, Only One. In 2020 I made a goblin simulator for the theme, Out of Control. And in 2022, I worked with a team of my coworkers to make a local arena game where you roll dice for your stats every round. Basically, every year I make a game where there's a fixed camera and a little guy running around. But this year is going to be different.
Hi everyone, the 7th annual GMTK Game Jam.
The theme for this year was roles reversed. So I got started working on my McDonald's mascot horror game Pizza Tower Dating Sim crossover. It's really popular on the website itch.io.com, so I knew I could get a lot of ratings. Better than my other ideas anyway. But here's the theme of the game. Basically, you play as a dude, as this robot, and it's like a roguelike, so there's like little tiny randomly generated levels, but it's more of like a sandbox because you play as the developer of the game. Roguelike, but you play as the game developer, so you can edit any item and turn it into anything else. So I'll have to figure out a way to balance it, but basically you can click on this like bullet and create like a slime or like a key instead. And once you satisfy like the requirements of the level, so it's kind of like a puzzle game, honestly. I mean, there's two ways I could go. I could just make it a free-for-all sandbox, which would be more fun. I could make it a small puzzle game that eventually evolves into a sandbox game, which would be cool, because as your power grows, there's just more stuff to swap, or you can get upgrades that actually let you swap. We'll see. I think it would be fun to just be able to turn anything into anything, but I think I'll figure out the balancing later. I want to be able to change bullets mid-air into my own bullets and send them back. Yeah, I'll have to figure out a way to balance it. But for now, I'm gonna start with the coolest part because that gets me going, and that's making the guy. I was going for a choppy animation style, sort of like stop motion, and what you have to do is go into the curves, select all your keyframes, and change the curve mode to constant. And then you also have to go into every time it says rotation, change the interpolation to Euler angles, because the other ones do not work. So I have working so that I can click, the player will be able to click on objects to select them. So this is swapping floor tiles into water. Kind of looks like that cake from that game. When you click on something, there'll be a menu. So that's how I'll implement scaling. Sort of balance is what comes up in that menu. So it's either everything or maybe a select list of items that are in the same class. Kind of looks like Minesweeper because you can place these holes. So basically the idea is that eventually you'll be able to highlight objects, even interactables or physics objects. Click on them and then you'll be able to transform them into whatever kind of object you want. And if it's a moving object like a bullet, you'll be able to specify a direction, which I think will be cool. My plan is to generate a mini dungeon within these bounds, so it'll be maybe 3 or 4 rooms with a couple enemies, a key, and a door. I added a highlight to let the player know if an item can't be swapped. So it's red if it can't be swapped, and green if it can be. For the level generation, I just fill the entire grid with walls, and then pick a couple points that should be rooms. From there I carve out room width and height out of the squares, and then I do a couple random walk algorithms to generate some noise in the layout, so it's not just squares. The level generation can sometimes result in these kind of situations where the player doesn't have access to the ladder because there's terrain in the way, but there'll be bombs and other options to destroy terrain in the future. Here you can see I have the basic system implemented, so you can click on an object, open up the menu, and then it shows what you can swap it into. You can even swap yourself into a rock or a bomb. It's pretty useless, but it's kind of funny. Bombs tick for a couple seconds and explode, destroying terrain. The key goes on your back. Now you can change the key into, say, a bullet, and you can use it and you put it on your back and then approach enemies, use it. Kind of like Breath of the Wild shields. And then I also added this where you can aim bullets. So it's like I turn this rock into a hostile enemy bullet. If I get hit by it, I get damaged. I added pots as another variation of a destructible object. I also, with the same bullet system, made a guided missile that you get to choose the direction of when you make it. Right now, the key is the only object that can be picked up, so you can turn the key on your back into something else, but it doesn't serve too much of a purpose in the current build of the game. I wanted to get started on enemies, so I made this simple slime with this cool jumping animation.
We got crazy mechanics here. Look at this. Turn this key into the slime. And then shoot the slime with the pot. Boom.
At this point, the mechanics are starting to look relatively interesting. Here's how they all came together in the final. Every floor generated has a bunch of rooms. There's always one ladder, one player character, and then sometimes a key, which locks the ladder. The player either needs to get the key and go to the ladder, or just go to the ladder, but there's terrain in the way. The player originally starts with only 3 options, being bomb, rock, and pot, and rocks and pots are scattered around the level. This way they can turn rocks into bombs, push them over to where they need to blow up terrain, and then make their path to the ladder. Here's an example of that. In the first level, it's always like this, so it teaches the player how to play the game. It's literally the only way to move forward in this stage. Some puzzles are literally impossible because there just aren't the resources to complete them. This is the limiting factor for a run. Enemies and bombs aren't really that threatening to the player as long as you know the spacing. As you progress through floors, you'll get options to unlock more swappable items. So now I have the ability to swap a slime into other things. This adds a lot of depth to the game because a potion could be spawned in an opportune location, or a slime generally moves towards the player so the player can blow a path up to the key, force the slime over and up, and then use it as a bomb to destroy a path that would have otherwise been closed. Most of the gameplay in the initial stages is turning pots and stuff into bombs and then pushing them around. They can be kind of tricky to push around, but I think it adds to the fun. I also added a plant that can shoot for hostile bullets and across. This is what they look like in the game. I just animated them in Unity. But if you're thinking the same thing as me, these plants are essentially generators. You can click a bullet and turn it into something like a bomb. And these plants will generate infinite amounts of bullets, so you can carve a path across the entire stage with bullet bombs. I thought this was a cool emergent feature of the game, and you can do it with the player's bullets as well. It kind of opens up the door to a lot of funny possibilities. The player gaining the ability to shoot is also an upgrade you can pick up between floors. In the late stages of the game, you can also get upgrades like slowing down time, as you can see here, and even the ability to spawn more players. Spawning more players is funny because you can send a player with a bomb strapped to their back on a kamikaze mission, or just turn yourself into a bomb, and then create a new player somewhere else on the map. It really becomes a sandbox game once you get to the latter stages. As the game progresses, the levels get filled up more and more with more stuff, so it technically scales infinitely until there's no more room left. Here are a few other things you can do in the game. Turn a picked up key into a pot shield. Turn yourself into a bomb next to a slime. Make an army to kill one word. Anywho, that was my submission to the GMTK Game Jam 2023. I did end up accidentally disqualifying myself because I deleted my game files after the upload submissions closed. When you delete something on itch, it auto-saves. And uploads are disabled after the jam is over, obviously to prevent people from working on it for extra time. Since I disqualified myself, I spent a few extra hours polishing up the game anyway. You can still play the game here on itch, though. I'll link it in the description. I also recently finished an update for my mobile game. It's a tower defense game where you play as the main tower, so it's kind of like a roguelite where you buy upgrades. If you're interested, I'll also link it in the description. You can find it on every platform through the dogma.quest website at the bottom. I also have a Discord server if you want to talk art or game design or just random crap, I don't care. Feel free to join. It's pretty quiet, so I won't be constantly pinging you. Thanks for watching.